I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. I want to talk today about another critical leadership essential, and that is delegation. In my experience, delegation is something that practically every leader in the world will struggle with, if not consistently, certainly at some stage in their career. And I think the failure to delegate effectively comes down to two core reasons. One, we believe, maybe rightly, maybe with a misguided belief in our own abilities, that we can do the task better than anybody else. So there's a mental block there preventing us actually delegating in the first place. And secondly, we feel a lack of time, and that time pressure prevents us from fully embracing the training and the key steps that I'm going to talk about today. But the reality is, if we do not master the art of delegation, there are two critical downsides for every leader. First, from a personal perspective, we are certainly going to damage ourselves either physically or mentally with some sort of burnout. The fact is, it doesn't matter how big your organization, when you are the leader, your to-do list doesn't shrink. It continues to grow, and you cannot do every task yourself. You have to be able to embrace the fact that you need to focus in on certain things and delegate other things. I always use the analogy of a sports team. It comprises different people with different skill sets, all playing a role for the success of that team. No one individual man or woman can play every role on the field. You know, in football or soccer, for our American listeners, you don't have somebody who's playing as a goalkeeper, a central defender, a midfielder, and a striker. And the same in rugby. People have different positions for a reason, and we have to embrace that philosophy as a leader. The second big problem with a failure to delegate is the impact it has on the people around you. If you don't delegate, it basically is sending a message to your peers: I don't trust you. I don't rate you. I don't believe you are competent enough to do this job. And that can only lead to a corrosion of their sense of value, their sense of confidence, their level of motivation, and they'll either bumble along at a suboptimal level, not really performing for you or the business, or more than likely, they will leave. And in that scenario, you are creating yet another job on your to-do list, as you now have to recruit new staff, lead on the onboarding process, embed them into the organizational culture. So the lack of an ability to delegate effectively is very, very corrosive to you as an individual, to the organization. It's therefore imperative to get it right. So here are a few simple tips that I always share with clients. They sound simple, but as with everything, as I'm walking through them, reflect, do you do this? Do you do it to the best of your ability? And if you're not doing it, as with everything we discuss, give it a try. I believe the results will be worth the effort. So, step one, preparation. Not every task that comes your way should end up on your to-do list. Some things should be deleted. They shouldn't be there in the first place, as ruthless as that sounds. Some things need to be delayed. Yes, they need doing, but they're not for the right now. The third D is then delegation. Some things need to go on that list for delegation. And finally, there is the do element. There are things that will need to be done by you as an individual. So that takes a little bit of preparation just to establish, first and foremost, what are you going to delegate? The second key step to consider is assign. Who are you going to assign that task to? Who is best placed in your team to be able to deliver the outcome that you want? The third key step is be specific. Now, it's very easy if a delegated task doesn't get executed to the standard you want to say, this is proof why I shouldn't have delegated in the first place. I should have just done it myself. And that might be the case. But in reality, in my experience, one of the biggest failures of effective delegation sits on the leader's shoulders because they were not specific enough. They didn't ensure there was absolute clarity in their colleague of what was expected. So that's about investing the time and the energy to make sure as you delegate, you're very clear on the result you want, the route you expect to be taken, the time frame in which you expect results. And it's really important to ensure that the person you're delegating to can articulate that back to you. Don't presume that the message has landed. Take the time to share your expectations, be specific, and confirm that that is fully understood. The next key step is do not micromanage. So easy to say, so hard to do in practice. There is no point delegating if you are going to stand over the proverbial shoulder of your colleague, watching them every step of the way. Again, it's a great route to destroy any sort of confidence and motivation because that micromanagement basically says, I don't have confidence in you. I don't trust you to do a good job. Yes, mistakes will happen, but I'm going to deal with that in the next step. You have to allow people to learn from the experience. You have to step back. Another big win for you as a leader is it frees up time. It frees up headspace. What you would have been investing in micromanagement can now be invested into other critical tasks that are sitting on your to-do list that can't be delegated to anybody else. So dealing with that issue of what if mistakes happen? This is where the next step is so important. Feedback. It is not acceptable as a leader to delegate, see that there's a problem, take the task back, critique somebody for the mistakes and move on. You have to ensure that that feedback loop is completed. We need to be able to sit down, understand what went well, what didn't go well, why did it not go well? Was it circumstances beyond our control? Forces in the market we couldn't have foreseen? Was it a lack of clarity? Did the leader fail in how they delivered the message and the expectation? Was there a skills gap, a lack of understanding or skill to be able to execute that task? All of these things need to be reviewed because with the best will in the world, we can give feedback and theoretical predictions to people, but people learn best through their own experiences. Whether you're talking about children learning to ride a bike, whether we're talking about every single one of us when we learn to walk, we have to learn through our own experiences. The same is true in business. So you have to let people step onto that proverbial field of play. You have to accept that mistakes might be made, but the crucial thing is to coach and guide people to learn from any mistakes, to ensure that when you delegate another task, the exact same mistakes are not replicated. That's when we have a problem. Mistakes will happen, we learn from them, we prevent them happening again, and they are critical learning steps if the feedback process is handled correctly. And the last step I want to share today, and perhaps the most important, is gratitude. Every single one of us, irrespective of our position in the organizational hierarchy, will feel overwhelmed. We all have a lot to do. So when your leader or you as the leader delegate yet another task onto people's shoulders, you have to recognize there will be a sense of overwhelm. There will be a sense of anxiety. So expressing gratitude for them stepping forward into this role right at the outset is important. And when we conduct that feedback process, expressing gratitude for what's gone well, and also the courage for getting out their comfort zone, for taking risks, for trying to execute, even if it didn't quite deliver the results we wanted on this occasion. Gratitude is oil in the engine, for want of a better word, to ensure that there is a sense of confidence and a sense of being valued in your colleague to ensure that the next time you need to delegate, they're willing to step forward. They're willing to give everything they can to deliver on that task. The opposite, it sounds so obvious to say it, when you don't express gratitude, people just feel put upon, they feel overwhelmed, they feel stressed, they're looking to just get rid of that task as quickly as possible and avoid ensuring it's delivered to the best of their ability. It's all about speed. Get this task away from me. So gratitude is essential. I hope these tips have been useful. If you are struggling with delegation, be patient with yourself. It's a challenge for every single leader that I've ever come across. And that is why I've made it a leadership essential that we all need to work on, that we all need to become better at if we want to optimize our potential as leaders and high performers. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.